I think, and I want to put my prediction out here right now, so that way if it comes true, then I get to like get glaze all over me. Pause. I get glazed. Pause. I get much praise and approval for being correct, but I think one of two things is going to happen. Either A, George R. R. Martin, and this is honestly probably more likely than not, George R. R. Martin doesn't post any more A Song of Ice and Fire books. And that's just kind of it. Because I think Winds of Winter is his next thing. I don't think he's working on any other Song of Ice and Fire stuff, unless it's Winds of Winter. There's probably some sort of evidence for that I don't really care to pull up right now, to be honest. But I don't think he is going to post anything. I say post like he's a fucking YouTuber. I don't think he's going to release anything unless it's Winds of Winter, right? I think that's his next thing, and if it's not that, then it's nothing. So that's, it's path A. He just doesn't release anything, and then when he dies, we receive, maybe the book, what he had written, gets published. And then, some authors are hired to work off of his manuscript, and they do that, and they post that for a dream. What the fuck is this next one called? If he dies, oh my gosh, I'm in my fucking eye. They'll get some writers, and they will work off of some ideas, and they'll post, and then those writers will release A Dream of Spring. I do think the series will be completed, if not by George R. R. Martin himself, then by somebody. I do feel that if someone else does end up finishing the series for him, overall, the series is going to be looked upon much less favorably, because we kind of see a little bit of that with another George Lucas, in that everyone loves the original trilogy, right? Huge controversy about the Clone Wars, or not Clone Wars, huge controversy about the prequels, Are they good? Are they bad? I personally like them in their own way, but the thing is, I think I'm falling into the trap of excusing things because they are by the main author, but I think that's because the main author, and that being George Lucas in this case, knows philosophically what his Star Wars is about, and so he gets to the philosophical heart of it much better than the sequels. I think the sequels are great at capturing the tone and the quality, but they don't get the philosophy of it right, and that's what fucks them. And so the prequels don't really have the tone, they don't really have the quality, and not just in terms of visuals, also in terms of the dialogue, in terms of the pacing, in terms of the general story beats. Like, the prequels just aren't up to it. If you were to take the prequels each movie by movie and then stack them up movie by movie to the sequel trilogy, sequels win every time. Force Awakens better than The Phantom Menace. Last Jedi better than Attack of the Clones. Rise of Skywalker is better. Hear me out. Even then, okay, Revenge of the Sith might be better than Rise of Skywalker. Like I said, movie was a real piece of shit. But again, movie by movie basis, if you don't consider any other movie and you're just watching one movie, Rise of Skywalker probably beats the prequel, Revenge of the Sith. But I think a lot of that again is movie by movie basis. Other authors know how to copy the aesthetics of a story, but what they can't copy is the philosophy in the heart of it. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot in the current TV adaptations of George R. R. Martin's work. That's what happened towards the end of the Game of Thrones, the series. They got to a point where they didn't have material to copy word for word, and so they had to try to copy George's style, his aesthetic, and they didn't get the heart of it. Like, if you just look at it on the surface, it matches the Game of Thrones aesthetic, but it doesn't get to the heart of it, right? And so I think in option A, if this happens, George dies, and then we get his mostly complete manuscripts, or maybe even a finished copy of Winds of Winter, but Dream of Spring is never officially released by him, not even post-mortem. They get a bunch of writers, they finish it, and then that's it. And then we don't get Fire and Blood, whatever the sequel to that would be. We don't get any more Tales of Dunk and Egg, and that's just kind of it. So I think that's what's going to happen for option A. Option B, on the other hand, sorry, I keep looking over there because I keep the fucking shower. Like, I can hear shit falling, and it's fucking weirding me out. Option B, on the other hand, is option B, and I know this seems really unlikely. Option B is George R. R. Martin is just scared of releasing Winds of Winter. And maybe not like scared, maybe like someone's already done it, right? Someone's kind of technically already done it, they beat him to the punch, and so it's like, why is he, maybe he's scared People aren't going to like the direction he's going. Maybe he's just like, someone's already done this. I don't want to do something someone's already done before. There could be a myriad of reasons of why he feels uncomfortable publishing it. But if he does publish it, I think we get A Dream of Spring at max like 3 years later. I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe it. And I know that sounds crazy because even the closest time span I'm looking on the here between two books is 2 years. And that's from A Game of Thrones to A Clash of Kings, A Storm of Swords. The thing is, you notice something in that the time span only gets greater. A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, it's 2 years. A Storm of Swords, 2 years. And then we get 5 years until A Feast for Crows, 6 years until A Dance with Dragons, and going on, 14 years for The Winds of Winter? Yeah, 14 years. So the time periods are definitely, the time spans are getting longer, right? And you look at that, and in your mind, you're like, oh, even if we get Winds of Winter, we're never going to Dream of Spring, right? Have you written a story? I've been to Iraq, Well, Sean Penn moment. That's who they're making fun of in that, right? Not Sean Penn. Fuck, anyways, like, that's a reference to Team America, but I'm not trying to flex here, because they're not that great. But if you've written a story, you know that the hardest thing to pull off is right before you get to that third act, like that low point. Like, that's the hardest, honestly, that's the hardest thing to write. Once you get into the third act, and once you get that movement going, and you're kind of like well within the third act, and you're getting to like the final confrontations, that shit's smooth sailing, as long as you set it up right earlier on. Because then it's just resolving shit, right? The thing is, that's resolving shit, right? Everything before that is setting shit up. That final piece before the third act, which A Dream of Spring would kind of be, and we're looking at this as if it were a movie, A Dream of Spring would be like the third act, like the final act of this. And maybe not tonally, maybe not if you were to put this in one long, like 50-hour movie, maybe not like that, but spiritually it's going to be a third act. Acts 1 and half of 2, maybe even 2/3 of 2, are about setting shit up and establishing shit and developing shit. Act 3 is about resolving shit. That point of Act 2 into Act 3 is all about barely nudging it there. Like, essentially, it's just like the roller coaster. It's like you're getting like right to the top, right to the top, right? Because Act 3 is all about going down. It's like you speed through that shit. Everything else is like you're building up, right? You're building up. It's like you're pushing that boulder up the mountain, and that shit is so hard when you almost are up there, right? Like, that's when it seems like it's hardest because you're fatigued, right? You're fatigued, and probably more importantly than anything is this is it's almost like exponential effort, right? With every single book of building, it gets considerably harder to set everything up because it's like resolving isn't the problem. It's setting up for the resolve. George isn't writing these stories with the intention of just kind of like writing shit and it being like, oh, I'm just gonna like write what happens next, and then this is what happens, and then this is what happens. No, he's writing with, I take step 1, I take step 2, and then I know step 4 has to be here, so where is step 3 gonna be? And so it's like you're trying to find, it's like you're like triangulating things, right? I've got this point, where does this point have to be to make it true, right? That's where George is at. George is at the hardest point in the story that he could possibly be. And I cannot imagine how frustrating that is for him. I cannot imagine how heartbreaking it must be for his fans to turn against him. Not all fans, but so many fans to be upset with him. And I imagine it's like, why are you upset? I released something you liked. I thought you liked this. Why are you mad? Just because I didn't finish it. And, to that point, fans have good reason to expect that it would be finished, right? Like if you're watching a movie and you're at like halfway through the second act, getting to that point, getting to the top of the roller coaster, and all of a sudden, like it like shuts off, and it's like, all right, see you back next time. Like, come back. I'm like, no, I thought I was here for the whole movie, right? So, and it's slightly, not the best analogy because in a movie there is a promised, like the story's already finished and promised to you, and then you get to see it all at once. I guess this is more like a TV show. Like imagine Breaking Bad stops like halfway, like maybe they had some like shooting issues, they stopped halfway through season 4, and you're like, all right, when are you going to release the rest of season 4? And they're like, we just have other stuff we want to do. And then someone writes like a Walter White x Jesse fanfic, and it essentially more or less kind of does what you want to do to a much worse degree, and then you're like, what the hell, why would I finish this for? But, I kind of get that. But that's essentially option B. I think he releases The Winds of Winter, and then A Dream of Spring comes by really fast. Because again, he's setting it up. He knows how things are going to play out. I wouldn't doubt if he has multiple chapters, or at least points like written out in his mind, or at least or on paper or whatever, of what's going to happen exactly in A Dream of Spring. The problem is getting everyone in place. right? It's like right before the curtain rises and you're like putting everyone in place. And you're like, all right, the play's about to begin, right? And then as soon as the curtain rises, the play happens, right? Like everything just unfolds. George has to get everyone into place, right? So this is the hardest book for him. If he were 20 years younger, 30 years younger, and in a lot better shape. He's getting in better shape now. This is no comment on him for that. But you know, if he were doing great, if we had no expectation he'd be hit by a meteor, I think there's a good chance that Winds of Winter would be broken into like 2 books. But I think he's at the point where he's like, you know, you can't do that again. Like he did that with he's going to originally have that gap, that 5-year gap, and then he couldn't. So that's why we have a Feast for Crows and a Dance with Dragons, is, you know, 2 separate books. But yeah, again, I wouldn't be surprised if he did that if you're younger. That was a lot. I just kind of want to rant a little bit because I told myself I'd post a video. It's 1 in the morning. I'm on a work trip. I've got to wake up in, I guess now, less than 6 hours, and then pack everything. I'll probably pack everything tonight, and check out, load up my car, and then drive to Galveston, Texas, to continue the work trip. But I just wanted to rant a little bit